You know, the wellness world is buzzing with all sorts of trends, and it's so easy to get lost in the noise. But when it comes to saunas, we're going to cut right through all of that. We're going to dive straight into the hard data and see what the science actually has to say about getting hot.
See, this isn't just about what feels good, though let's be honest, it feels amazing. This is about rigorous, long-term scientific research. Specifically, we're talking about a massive study out of Finland that tracked thousands of people for over 20 years. These are hard outcomes, and frankly, some truly remarkable findings.
And we're kicking things off with the biggest number of all. According to that landmark study, people who used the sauna frequently had a mind-blowing 40% lower risk of dying from any cause. Think about that. That's compared to people who only used it once a week. This isn't some minor tweak, it's a massive shift in longevity.
And it gets even more incredible when we start looking at the brain. That same group of frequent sauna users, their risk of developing dementia and Alzheimer's plummeted by 66%. This is a huge clue that whatever is happening in that hot room has a seriously powerful protective effect on our cognitive future. Okay, those numbers are just staggering, right? But it all leads to the big question. How do you actually get these benefits? It turns out it's not just about sitting in a hot room. There's a very specific protocol that all the data points to. So let's break down the evidence-based how-to.
So it really boils down to two fundamental questions. How often should you be going, and for how long should you stay in? Well, luckily for us, the research is incredibly clear on both of these. Let's start with how often.
This is where you can really see what we call a dose-response relationship. Basically, the more you do it, the better the results. Using the sauna just once a week, that's our starting point. But bump that up to 2 to 3 times a week and you suddenly see a 22 to 27% drop in cardiovascular mortality. Now go all in at 4 to 7 times a week and that reduction jumps to a massive 50%. The big takeaway here, consistency is absolutely king.
So what about how long you should stay in? Well, the sweet spot seems to be right around 20 minutes. The data shows a night and day difference between a quick 10-minute pop-in and a full 20-minute session. In fact, sessions that lasted over 19 minutes were linked to a 52% reduction in the risk of sudden cardiac death. So seriously, set a timer and try to stay for the whole session to get the real benefit.
All right, so what kind of sauna should you be using? This is important. Traditional Finnish saunas, the ones that get really hot, that's where nearly all of this incredible longevity data comes from. Infrared saunas run a lot cooler and they're great for things like muscle recovery or if you're just starting out. But the long-term 20-year-plus research, it's just not there yet. So, if longevity is your primary goal, the evidence points squarely at traditional saunas.
Okay, now let's circle back and dive a little deeper into those two huge benefits we mentioned right at the top. What is the sauna actually doing for your heart and your brain for the long haul?
This is honestly one of the best ways to think about the heart benefits. When you're in the sauna, your heart rate can climb up to 150 beats per minute. That's pretty similar to a moderate cardio workout. You're actually training your cardiovascular system, making your blood vessels more flexible and responsive, all without putting any impact on your joints.
And the results of that workout? Well, they speak for themselves. For those people in that optimal group, going 4 to 7 times a week, the protective effects are just astounding. We're talking about cutting your risk of fatal cardiovascular disease and sudden cardiac death by more than half. That makes regular sauna use one of the most powerful preventative tools we have.
I absolutely love this analogy for the cognitive benefits. It's a lot like saving for retirement, right? You don't feel smarter or richer after one session, but those small, consistent deposits you make, week after week, year after year, they compound into powerful protection against neurodegeneration later in life.
So, how does it actually work? Well, the heat helps reduce chronic inflammation, which we know is a key driver of cognitive decline. It boosts blood flow to the brain, which is always good. And, critically, it activates something called heat shock proteins. You can think of these as your cell's own little cleanup crew, going around repairing damage and clearing out the junk proteins that are associated with diseases like Alzheimer's.
Now, beyond those incredible long-term payoffs for your heart and brain, there are also benefits you can feel much more immediately. So let's look at how a sauna can help speed up recovery for both your body and your mind.
Okay, for anyone who works out, listen up. A post-workout sauna is fantastic for reducing that next-day muscle soreness. It works by cranking up the blood flow to your tired muscles, which helps flush out metabolic waste and deliver nutrients for repair. In fact, studies show that combining exercise with sauna use is actually more effective for improving your fitness than doing either one by itself. The sauna is also an incredible tool for managing stress. The heat helps lower your levels of cortisol, that's the stress hormone, and it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. That's your rest and digest mode. Here's a pro tip. Doing a sauna in the evening, ideally about 90 minutes before bed, can dramatically improve your sleep quality by helping your body and mind really wind down.
All right. Now, before you run off and jump into the heat, we have to cover some crucial safety information and clear up a few common myths. The benefits are substantial, for sure, but the risks are real if you don't do it correctly.
Let's just tackle the big one right away: weight loss. Yes, you will lose weight in a sauna session, but it is almost entirely water weight that you need to drink and replace. It is not a tool for fat loss, period. It does support your metabolism and can be a great complement to an active lifestyle, but think of it as a force multiplier, not a magic shortcut.
And this part is absolutely non-negotiable. If any of these conditions apply to you, you must speak with your doctor before using a sauna. This is especially true if you have certain heart conditions or if you've had any alcohol, which seriously messes with your body's ability to regulate its temperature. Safety first, always.
This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? The evidence we've been talking about, it isn't based on some small, short-term study or speculative wellness talk. It's the result of 2 decades of meticulous data collection on thousands of real people. These aren't theories, these are observed, long-term human outcomes.
So what's the ultimate takeaway from all this? Well, the quiet ritual of taking a sauna is powerful in itself. But the real, life-changing benefits we've talked about today, they come from one thing above all else: consistency. Making it a regular part of your life is what truly unlocks its profound potential for your health. The only question left is, how are you going to fit it into yours?